Hello, everyone. Just giving it a couple moments as people trickle in. Thank you for joining us. Let's give it another couple moments here. It's nice to see so many people on this call. All right, well, I think it's leveling off a little bit, so I can get started. Welcome to Say What? Demystifying Preservation and Conservation Terms with CCAHA's new glossary. My name is Greg Stewart. I'm the Education Program Manager at the Conservation Center for Art and Historic Artifacts, or CCAHA as we call it, and I use he and they pronouns. For accessibility's sake, I will say I'm a white person with glasses and dark hair, the blue shirt, and my background is blurred intentionally. So a bit more about today's program. So today you're going to be joining Preservation Specialist Katie Lowe for a tour of CCAHA's new Preservation Glossary. This glossary contains over 400 terms and their definitions as they relate to the conservation and preservation of cultural heritage items, and their definitions are as simple and jargon-free as possible. You'll hear what makes this new tool perfect for cultural heritage stewards of all backgrounds and learn how it can be used in your current and future work. So before we get started, just some Zoom housekeeping. You're in Zoom webinar, so your video and audio are turned off, but you can ask questions or make comments to us in the chat. This program is closed captioned in English, and you can turn on subtitles with the little CC button in the Zoom toolbar. So we'll have a presentation from our speaker followed by Q&A with you, but please feel free to ask questions anytime during the program, and I'll be reading them to our speaker verbally at the very end. The program is being recorded, and we'll send a recording as well as the PowerPoint and any resources we've shared in a follow-up email. So just to say, this program series, and indeed the creation of the glossary, was previously funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities, which allowed us to provide high-quality educational programs in fulfillment of our mission. Please consider a donation to the CCAHA or an institutional membership, if that applies to you, to help keep our webinars free of cost to everyone. And just to say that every little bit helps. Katie, if you could go to the next slide, please.
Absolutely.
And one quick note about the organization I work for, CCAHA. We are a regional conservation lab and preservation services facility. We're based in Philadelphia, but we work with organizations and clients all across the country. Our conservators treat paper-based objects like books, photographs, documents, artwork on paper, and more. And our preservation services staff work in the field providing educational programs like this one and help institutions plan for the future of their collections. The center also offers a wide range of digitization services as well as fundraising assistance, housing, framing, and more. And you can find out more about everything we do at our website, ccha.org. So, a little bit more about our speaker today. In her position as Preservation Specialist, Katie Lowe conducts on-site preservation needs and risk assessments and assists with preservation and emergency planning at cultural heritage organizations across the country. Katie is a public historian with 10 years of experience in museums, community programming, nonprofit work, and education. She has held positions at the Holocaust Awareness Museum and Education Center, Pennsbury Manor, the Mercer Museum, Old Salem Museum Gardens, and the Mediation Center. She received her BA in History and Education from Ursinus College and her MA in History and Museum Studies from UNC Greensboro. And with that, I will turn it over to Katie.
Thank you, Greg. I cannot see anybody. So Greg, if you could just give me verbal confirmation that you can hear me, that would be wonderful.
Yes, we can
Okay,
indeed.
phenomenal. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Katie Lowe. As Greg said, I'm a preservation specialist here at the center. My pronouns are she and her. And for accessibility purposes, I am a white woman with curly brown hair. And I can't see myself, but I believe there are books behind me. Okay, let's get into it. So my hope for today is that this will be a really relaxed webinar. I know we've done ones in the past that are super technical or really focused on theory. Today's going to be more just kind of gently walking you through this incredible thing that we've spent the last year putting together and celebrating the incredible work. And I'd really like to try to leave as much space for Q&A as possible at the end. So just relax. If you're eating lunch, eat lunch. You got to get up and get a drink, go do that. You're not going to miss anything essential. Okay, so here's what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to give you a little bit of the background on the project. As I said, this iteration has been coming together for about a year, but it way predates that. So I'll give you some of that context. I'll talk through our goals for the most recent version. I'll introduce you to the team who worked really hard on it. Then we can talk a little bit about use and maybe some potential users. Then I will take you through a tour. The videos for that are all pre-recorded just because I think we've all spent enough time on Zoom to know that too many things can go wrong when you try to screen share and click through a whole other website, especially one this large. But I'll pop in between each video and just kind of give updates. Then we'll talk about next steps and kind of future planning for this resource. And then I would really like at the end to shout out some other incredible resources that exist online for free that are doing something similar and could be complementary to you if you do find this useful. Okay, let's get going. If you're interested and you have your phone on you, you can scan the QR code on the screen here and fiddle around in the glossary, follow along with me while I'm talking, check out how it looks on mobile. So feel free to scan that now. I will also have this QR code available at the end if you choose not to do it right now. Just gonna wait 1 second before I move on. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the background here. Really the underpinning belief that precipitated all this work a while ago was the fundamental idea that preservation is for all. And we really came to that conclusion through lots and lots and lots of in-field work. And seeing that, the people who are doing the day-to-day care of stewarding these collections, whether it's in traditional organizations or at home or in cultural and community centers, are very often people who are not traditionally educated. They're volunteers. They are people who got into this line of work like 30 and 40 years ago and have a lot of practical experience, but didn't go through a formal education in this kind of thing. Or they did go through a formal education and there are some gaps that need to be filled in. Our intention here is to better serve those volunteers and non-traditionally educated people already doing this work and to invite in more shareholders, practitioners, and stewards and really democratize this field. One thing that I think is really important to mention, I'll say for myself, Greg listed all of my background earlier. I had a very traditional track into this field. I did go and do social work for a while before going back to get my graduate degree, but I was in museums the whole time I was doing that. And I remember when I graduated my graduate program and started working with that degree that people would talk at me and use terms and expect me to just know what they were, assuming there was this shared knowledge, which didn't seem to be the case for me or for a lot of other people in the field. And that's kind of been something I've been paying attention to for the last few years. And I know for sure I'm not the only one with that experience. So that was kind of in the back of our heads when we put this together. So the first version, kind of moving on from that idea of preservation is for all, was NEH funded. It came out years and years and years ago and was designed in collaboration with Archives for Black Lives in Philadelphia. which is an incredible volunteer organization, really working to support the collecting and preservation of archival material related to Black life here in the city. The original version was a PDF. It had far less terms than we currently have. And it was comprehensive, but not as much as this current one is. And because it was a PDF, it was limited in terms of its searchability. It was very scrollable, but that's kind of it. We got some really excellent feedback about that first version. Essentially, people were telling us that the definitions were still a little bit too jargony in general. We also got a lot of feedback about interest in more images, especially for things like materials and damage. And again, we wanted to make this new version a little bit more comprehensive. So, the original version didn't have a lot about digital preservation, and didn't really do much to speak to the fact that I'll say this on the next slide, but the GLAM fields are multiple different sort of concurrent fields, all operating close to each other, but not perfectly so. And within those fields, there are also subspecialties. And then within those subspecialties, there are very diverse training programs. So we can't assume that we're all operating in intellectual lockstep. So in order to kind of make sure that we are cross-educating, this is as comprehensive as possible. Okay, on that note, here are our goals. So we really wanted it to be super image heavy, as I said. We wanted it to be interactive, comprehensive, and intuitive. So it's one thing to have a resource, it's another to have people actually use it, and actually invite their curiosity and their active participation, and really celebrate what it is to be a learner. We are all learning all the time. And I think in a field that can feel very academic, the act of being a learner isn't always celebrated. Sometimes it's something we feel shame for. But it's really excellent to be curious and to be learning new things. And you ask really interesting questions that way. So we designed it to encourage people to ask questions and dive deeper and give us their feedback. Going back to what I was saying earlier, we're trying to close that shared knowledge gap, that assumption that we're all working with the same terminology, we're all working with the same training, which is truly not the case. And to that note, we made our team designing this as interdisciplinary as possible, which you'll see on the slide when I show you everybody who put in their amazing work on this. Finally, most importantly, it was very, very essential to us that we keep this a free resource and that it be accessible. And when we say accessible, we don't just mean things like descriptive captioning under images and high contrast site design, but also things like really, really intellectually accessible language and easy to navigate systems. So this is our team. Everybody who you see here put in countless hours and thought and intention and care into this. You can see just from the titles that it was very interdisciplinary. We have people here who have backgrounds in conservation, preventive conservation, museums, archives, libraries, film, all kinds of different things. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Lori Lichman, who was our consultant, who really helped us get all of our hyper technical language down into something that we felt was really accessible and approachable. So when we go through the tour in a little bit, I'm going to highlight some of these key features. I will talk about them far more in the videos, but here's just kind of a sense of what to look for. So I'm going to highlight that the database format that we wound up choosing. As I said, the original version was just kind of a scrollable PDF. This is now a large database. If you've been in already, you can see that. As such, it has some really incredible navigability features, including searchable tags, filter systems. It's very image heavy. We have related definitions linked to each other. And going back to that idea about accessibility and approachability, all of our definitions are written at an 8th grade reading level to ensure all people of all backgrounds can get something from it as they try to use it. Speaking of which, who are our users? So I kind of have it in my head broken up into 7 different buckets here, but really anyone can use it, which is sort of what the last one there speaks to. So definitely students and researchers. One thing we've been talking about a lot is not every graduate program preparing people to work in these fields really has a lot of technical materials training. That's definitely true if you're doing something like a digital preservation course or a film preservation course or conservation. But if you're doing like general museum studies or archival sciences, it's not always going to go as deep into the nitty-gritty of preservation as we would necessarily like, or as you are called to need to do when you get into this field. So hopefully supplementing what people are already learning in their graduate programs. I have GLAM professionals, private owners, and non-traditional stewards and volunteers all linked together because I think of this as the collective group of people who are doing direct care provision. And for them, we would really like this to be used for the ongoing support of their collections, care activities, and any ongoing education that they might need. Whether it's just clicking around on the glossary and educating themselves that way, or if someone were to take an ongoing education course and they want to use the glossary as kind of a companion to help them better understand their readings and videos, it's there for that too. Certainly board members, one thing that we work with our clients on a lot is improving how to talk about preservation and collections care with people who are not doing that work so that they can better explain what it is that they're doing, advocate for funding, things like that. So if we can get some language to help you all talk about what you're doing in a way that makes sense, that's phenomenal. We would love, we also designed this for our clients to be able to use it. That includes people who are working with us in the Preservation Services Office, but also people who are working with our lab, people who have dropped objects off, are considering treatments to get done on the objects, are reading a condition report that's been done for them. Also, if you're attending a webinar or a workshop, or you've gotten a preservation needs assessment report from us, all the terms in here we hope our clients can use to better understand what we're trying to communicate to them. Your Aunt Carol is just my funny way that makes me giggle of saying anybody at all can use this. Learning is fun, preservation is cool. Everybody that I know who knows what I do thinks it's awesome, which makes me so happy because I also think that it's awesome. And we are all lifelong learners. So if you know anybody who just thinks this stuff is cool and wants to click around in there a little bit and learn a little more about how the sausage is made, it's there for them too. Okay. We are going to move into the pre-recorded section here. Again, I can't see you guys. So Greg, if there's any technical issues with the videos, please just let me know. I have it chunked into 3 videos. It'll kind of take you through how to get to the glossary, how to navigate around the glossary once you're there, and then what each individual entry kind of looks like and how you can filter your searches. So in between each video, I'm going to stop for a second and just shout out how what I've discussed may look a little bit different if you're viewing on your phone. But yeah, I think I'll just get us into it. And again, Greg, let me know if we have any issues with sound or video. Welcome, attendees. This is the demo portion of our webinar. I'm gonna use a series of pre-recorded videos here to just give you a sense of how this thing works as a tool in real time. And we'll start off with just how to navigate to it and generally what it looks like when you get there. So here's our homepage, ccaha.org. Right now, because it's just been launched on the home screen, there is an announcement about the glossary. So if you just scroll down, there's a button here that'll take you straight to it. Easy peasy. However, when this goes away, the best method is going to be to hover over the Initiatives tab here, click Preservation Glossary, and here we are. So it is embedded in our website. So you just want to make sure that if you want to scroll down the actual web page, that your mouse is not in the embedded window, and that'll scroll you on the larger screen. But if you want to scroll through the glossary, just move your mouse into the embedded window and you'll scroll through. A few things I just want to point out here right away. We'll get into all of the different views, the different tags, but a few things that you'll see when you first land here are a how to use this glossary hyperlink and a about this glossary hyperlink. So I'm going to open these in new tabs. And we'll start with the about. This is just a general statement on our team, what the intention of the glossary is, and an accessibility statement. As I'm sure I've mentioned already, accessibility is a huge driver behind this initiative, and it is an ongoing effort. So this is us really talking about what we've already done and what we intend to continue doing, and a link to our external feedback form. And if you want to just navigate back to the glossary, it's really easy. Just click that link there. And this is what it looks like if you are on the landing page for the glossary as it's not embedded. So if it's its own page, it looks something like this. In terms of use, so this is a really lovely resource that my colleague Camilla Dawson put together, just as a constant reference point. You know, if people are used to using Notion, if they're not used to using database formats, this is really just set up to help you walk through all of the different features with confidence. So it'll show you all the different views, how to use tags, again, more information about that external feedback form, stuff like that. And again, you can really easily just navigate straight back to the glossary from there. Okay. Welcome. Attend. Give me 1 second. We've been having some issues moving from slide to slide with the videos up. Let's see if I can figure that out. Greg, you should be able to move to another slide. Will you try to do that for me?
Yeah, let me see here.
While we're trying to figure that out, I'll just say if you're on mobile, navigating to the glossary from our website is pretty simple. This is the demo portion of. There we go. Thank you, Greg. It's pretty simple. You just go to ccaha.org and then there's a little drop-down menu on the left side of your screen. You click that, you click initiatives, click Preservation Glossary, and then you're there. All right, this is going to walk us through, I believe this is the section where I talk about all the different views. So I'm going to let myself take it away. And then there will be one more video after this. Hello again. Here we are back in the glossary. This time we're going to talk about some of our navigability features. And this will really highlight why we chose to do this in a database format. Because you'll see all of the different ways that might make sense to view this and make this massive thing a little bit easier to use. Again, like I'm sure I've already said, there are over 400 terms on here. It's not going to make sense for every person to just scroll through all of them. So let's start with views. Right now we're in gallery view. One thing that we really wanted to do with this new version is have lots of pictures, especially for material types and damage types. And so if you've received, let's say, a condition report, or if you're performing a condition report for cataloging purposes at your organization, and you're trying to learn a little bit more about what damage can look like, this is a really great way to do that. So let's pick something. I really like the images we have for acid migration. So I'll click acid migration. You can scroll down and you see that the image that is featured on the gallery face is the first in a series of images that show you all the different ways that this particular type of damage might look. And we did that for as many as possible. Each of the images are linked out to their original source with our current accessibility feature, which is just for screen readers, it's a really short blurb generally explaining what you see in the image, but not yet at the extent to which we'd like it to be. So gallery view, again, is a really good way to scroll through the whole list and see which of the terms have images associated with them. And this is what it looks like. And of course, some letters are going to have a little bit more than others. Okay. If we wanted to see all entries, this is just more of a list format. What really works about this one is that you can it takes all of that information that's packed into each word's entry and makes it visible to you here. So let's say you really want to have better view as you're scrolling of related terms, or you'd really like to have a better view of linked out further reading. This is a great format to view it in. Now, if you just want to see the words, you don't want to see the tags, you don't want to see the associated content, you would just go to the list format here. It's really what it says on the tin. I would say this is the easiest, most streamlined way to go through the glossary, and it's really good if you kind of know what you're looking for, if you know the exact term that you'd like some support on. Another way that you can look through all of the terms is to organize by tags. So each of the words are tagged under a larger subheader of content type. So all of the agents of deterioration, for example, are tagged as an agent of deterioration. If you are wanting to learn more about archives, archival procedures, archival terms, you could go straight to the archives tag here. Bookbinding, collections management, it goes on and on and on, and this will show you the words that are grouped underneath that larger generalized topic. Now, I mentioned in one of my previous videos that this glossary is a work in progress. You can see here that not all of the agents of deterioration are included, and this is just reflective of that, that we need to go back in and add the rest of them through the tag process. But that's okay, we have procedures in place to do that. Something this big is bound to take time to roll out in its entirety. And then again, the other way that you can view it is to go through survey/plan/assessment. So this speaks to what I've said, that we really intend this to be used by clients in addition to people who are just looking for ongoing education. So if somebody has received an archival needs assessment from us, a collections assessment, if they are working with us to create a collections management policy, we have a separate set of tags that are specifically terms that are most involved with those types of assessments, plans, and policies that they might be going through with us or trying to learn a little bit more about. So those are the different ways that you can view it. Awesome. Okay. Greg, will you try to scoot to the next slide for me again? Hello again. Thank you. Well, that was a little bit less painful. That was mostly painless. Good. Okay. And I'll just say before we get into this last section, before we get into this last section, again, if you're on mobile, if you scroll down to the top of the alphabetical sorting of the words, you should see on the left a little gray tab that says gallery, because that's the standard view that you first view it in. If you click the little drop down caret, all of the different view types should pop up for you in a separate tab, and then you can just select the one and it'll sort it that way. Okay, this last video is going to talk us through how to use the tags, how to filter, and then what an actual entry looks like. Hello again, here we are for our last video. I will try to breeze through it as quickly as I can, but essentially what we're going to do here is talk about what actual entries look like and the filter and search functions. So to show you what the entries can look like, I'm going to scroll down to a term that I know is just chock full of information. Here we go, cellulose nitrate. If you work in this field, you know this is a juicy topic with lots of information. So I know this is going to have lots of good stuff in the entry. So this is what it looks like. You have a banner image, we have the definition at the top here, we have our definition, or we have the term, excuse me, at the top here, and then we have the definition right beneath it. Right underneath that, you will have two sets of tags. So the first is just general topic tags. So you'll see this one is tagged as photos and material. The second set of tags is that one I talked about earlier. So if you want to, if we've tagged something to be especially related to a specific plan, assessment, or survey that you could potentially have received from us or are working on with us, we would tag it here. One of my favorite features is the further reading section. One of the things that we've really tried to do here is strike the balance between enough depth of information to make sure you have the information you need to do whatever it is you need to do next, whether it's consulting with a professional or doing more reading, or maybe you got what you needed and you're good, without overwhelming people and getting to a level of technicality and depth that is more than what most people would need to be looking for. However, we want to acknowledge the fact that that depth may be necessary, in which case we're really going to beef out this further reading section here. This is something, along with increased accessibility, that we'll be spending the next few years really adding to. And essentially what it is it's going to be an amalgamation of all the best resources we know of that are related to this term that you can head to if you'd like to do that deeper dive. We already have something here for cellulose nitrate just because we know that this is, if you find it in your collection, you're probably panicking a little bit, and we want to get you a little bit of additional support right off the bat. So that's just a hyperlink. If people wanted to do the further reading, they would click that hyperlink and it would open in a new tab. Next feature are the related terms. So every term pretty much in here is linked to something else. We've added this to each entry in situations where the definition uses another word that we consider to be jargon and is defined in the rest of the glossary. So let's say I'm reading this and I see cellulose acetate and I think, what the heck is cellulose acetate? I would go down here to related terms. I would see that cellulose acetate is here, and I can just click on it, and now I can read about cellulose acetate. I'm done. This is going to be cross-linked back to cellulose nitrate, so I can click on that to go back, or I can X out of this entry and just navigate to it back from the main view. Last little feature I want to show you here on the entries, we've already kind of gone through, but these are our images. Again, they're here to show you all the different ways that these materials or damage types might look in your collections or in use. All right, let's talk about filtering and searching. So you'll see at the top here, all the way to the right of the different views, there's these three icons. This is filter, sort, and search. Currently, we do not have sort set up to really be used, but if we get feedback that people want to be able to sort easily via alphabetical order but in reverse or something like that, we will make sure that we set that feature up. But right now, let's focus on filter. So this is really set up to help you look at specific terms related to those tags that we talked about earlier. So to turn this feature on, you'll click filter, and this drop-down menu will come up. The two that are currently set up to be used are plan/assessment/survey tags and tags. You can filter by these other metadata, pieces here if you want to, but they're not really going to do for you what filtering by these two will do. So let's go by tag. So once you click that, you'll get this drop-down menu here. These are all of our content tags. So if I want to just look at terms that are defining damage types, I would just click damage, and it's automatically narrowed it down to just be damage types. And this is going to be super image heavy, as to be expected. You can have multiple tags. So let's say I want to see damage and conservation treatment. I would click both of those. I'm not sure if that's going to change much, but the option is there. To undo that, I have two ways of doing it. I can either click the X up here in this window, or I can just click here again. If I want to get rid of this specific filter that I've used, I'll just click reset and then go back here. And now let's say I want to filter by plan, assessment, and survey tags. It's just the same process, except here are the tags that are related to different processes that people may be going through with us at the center. You can also filter by both of these tag fields. So let's say that I want to look at, how do I want to, let's say a collections assessment. I've received a collections assessment. And I also want to filter by damage. So I'd go right here and I'd click plus filter. I'd go down to tags. I'd click damage. Now we are filtered by both of those things, and we don't have anything that has both of those tags, so it's currently empty. If I want to back one off, I can get rid of that X, and now I'm just back to that first tag. And again, if I want to reset completely, I'll just click reset. Final feature I want to show you, and then I will get you all out of here so that you can ask questions, go eat lunch, whatever it is you want to do, is our search feature. So this is really easy. It's a type to search situation. So let me type polyester. So this is going to show me every definition that has the term polyester somewhere in its text, in addition to the actual term polyester. This is really great because it will most likely be showing you terms that are linked to each other. So if when you find polyester, you're like, what are these other things and how are they related to that term I was looking for? They're already pulled up for you. Okay. Greg, is there any way you can get me to the next slide?
Oh, did that do it?
I will do this. Okay, try again. Hello again. Here we are for our last video.
No.
All right.
I'm
Yes.
clicking. Oh, there we go.
Okay,
You got it.
beautiful. Thank you all for being patient with us. Okay, so what's next? Well, feedback is a really, really essential part of this process. As I mentioned in all of those videos, this is a work in progress. We are going to be adding new terms, reworking the definitions that are there, going through and making our tags more comprehensive, putting in further readings, all kinds of stuff. And it's really helpful for us if you tell us what's not working or what you'd like to see, what you like, what you disagree with, all of that is really helpful. And I will show you the mechanism for that in a minute. In response to all of that, we have meetings set up for the next year, quarterly review and revision meetings, where we will go in and look at what people have been saying, see what kind of changes we can make, add things, take things away, all that good stuff, check links. We do need to come up with a plan for ongoing maintenance past this next year. We really want this to be something that continues to grow, continues to adapt, in perpetuity if we can, but we need to secure funding to do that, as Greg sort of alluded to at the beginning. this has always been funded by the NEH. So finding a way to keep this going is really essential because we really want to be responsive. The whole point of this is to serve the people who are actually out in the world stewarding our history. And so we need to know what's working, what's not working, and have the resources to respond, and maybe create a whole new incredible other version at some point. Lastly, I just want to shout out some other really incredible resources that exist, like I said earlier, for free online that are also functioning in some sort of public education glossary type role. Um, the first is the School for Advanced Research's Guidelines for Collaboration Glossary. It's very comprehensive. It's really focused on museum collections management, which is, in our glossary as well. But it's scrollable. It functions as a web page. It's there. We love it. Similarly, I really love the Canadian Conservation Institute's Agents of Deterioration. It's something that I always show people when I'm trying to introduce them to kind of the underpinnings of practical preservation. It does a really excellent deep dive. There's like a homepage that shows you all of the 10 agents, and then there's deep dives on each of the 10. If you're looking for something that's kind of a complement to SAR's glossary for, if that one focuses on museum collections management, SAA's Dictions of Archives terminology focuses on archival collections management. And I believe that is a searchable system. It's not just like a scroll feature. And then on the conservation side of things, if you're looking for something really materials focused, really technical, MFA Boston's Cameo resource and AIC's wiki are both really incredible things that are out there for you. One last time, here is the QR code to the glossary. And then this second one on the right here is the QR code to our public feedback form. So we really encourage anybody who's using this to give us feedback. We'll be collecting it all in this one place, really taking it in. It's really essential to us that this be a fully collaborative process between us and our users. So any feedback you have for us, we will absolutely welcome. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop my share. And I think we're good for the Q&A portion.
Thank you, Katie. That was amazing. It's so exciting to see this come to fruition after a long process. So really cool stuff. Yeah, any questions out there? Anything that people are kind of dying to know? I was kind of curious if you could talk a little bit more about especially maybe some of the specific process of kind of whittling it down and getting to some of these more like public facing terms. Like how did that kind of happen? I know that we worked with our consultant Lori, who really helped us sort of like take an outsider look at this to sort of figure out what seemed jargony. I'm just kind of wondering what that process was like for you, Katie.
Yeah, it's a good question. We started with a pretty small team. And then as I thought more about this idea, what really got us thinking about how to whittle it down was the term accession, which is used differently in archives and museums. And myself and the other person who were working on the glossary together originally hit that fork in the road and we're like, okay, we can either not make this our problem, or we can make this our problem and make this as comprehensive as possible and bring in a lot of voices and try to see if we can meet everybody here. So that was when we widened the team. And then we all just really worked together to talk. I think it helps that we've all been in the field for a while consulting. And so we know what people have questions on. We know what people are doing day to day in their work. And that really helps. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Um,
Somebody asked if it's
yeah.
copyrighted. I see that. It is not copyrighted. No. If you could just give us, fair use credit, that's great. but it's all part of it being like a free and accessible resource.
Any other burning questions out there? Oh, here we go. Can the search results be sorted by relevancy, or can you narrow the search to just title versus keyword?
It's a really good question. I don't believe that those are current features. I'm assuming you mean like if I were to search polyester and I just want things that have polyester in the title. I know that that's something that Notion, which is the database that we, or the system that we built this in, has the functionality to do that. I don't know if we've made that functionality part of the current version of the glossary, but I really like that idea. If you would be willing to put that in a feedback form so that I can have that in one place, that would be excellent. We have our first sit down, review, revise session coming up in July, and that's something that I think we could easily do at that time.
Awesome. Great question. Great question. Um, Anything else? Is Notion the database you used? Yes. And is it open source? That I don't know, Katie.
I don't know either. I wonder if Camilla would be willing to answer that. Our little usually Camilla doesn't come on screen for these, but I wonder if she'd be willing to answer that question. Notion is the system that we used to build this. Yes. Um, I don't believe that it's open source. Uh, it essentially functions. Sorry, I got distracted by the next question. Oh, that's Camilla saying it has a free version, but I don't believe it's open source. Okay. Asked and answered. Thank you, Camilla. We love Notion. Essentially, it's a really fantastic collaborative work system. Um, and I can't imagine an easier way to have built something like this. Will the glossary always be available for the CCAHA website? Yes, as long as that website is up, it will be available there.
Awesome. Maybe last call for questions. We have a little bit of time, but I know this is pretty straightforward, just kind of going through the tool. So,
Usually,
um,
if you guys have been to any of my webinars before, I'm talking your ears off about something really boring like inventorying. So I'm happy to get you all out of here a little early if we can do that.
Katie, that's such a great segue.
Oh, right.
Katie will be
Okay.
talking to us about inventorying next month as it happens.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but in that case, if there's no further questions, and you're always welcome to email us questions if you think of them later, or provide for additional feedback on that form, that would be great. Just a big thanks to Katie today and to Camilla, who's been behind the scenes, as we mentioned, with all of the tech and setup for the webinar. And yes, our next webinar will be Lost, Found, and Everything in Between, which Camilla has put a link in there before already. Surviving Inventory Surprises. It's also going to be with Katie, and it'll be July 30th at noon. This is part 3 of our series on inventorying. We hope to see you there. And when this program ends, a little survey is going to pop up. This is different than the survey that Katie mentioned that's just about the glossary. This is one that's about our programs. So you can let us know about future programs you'd like to see, or just any feedback you might have for our webinars. And um, with that, I think we can adjourn for the afternoon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.